Elbaf is running out of villains fast. The Straw Hats are on the verge of wiping out all the Gods Knights, MMAs, and Domi Reversi giants. But if things seem too easy, that's because it looks like Oda may have been saving the most dramatic twist for last. Imu's final ploy will likely be turning Loki into the ultimate Domi Reversi'd soldier. Just like Imu did with Rox, and just like Imu did with Herald, this entire arc has been leading to Imu taking control of Loki, setting up for the New World version of the iconic Oars battle. This time, the Straw Hats against the World Ender Loki. The battle between Luffy and Loki, the Sun God and the Nidhogg, has been consistently foreshadowed since the start of Elbaf, and this surprising route would actually lead to resolving a lot of character storylines that have been set up for Loki, the Giants of Elbaf, and the Straw Hats in general. And if it seems like a powered-up version of Loki would simply be too powerful for the heroes to defeat, Oda has actually set up several surprising plot devices that make an alliance battle against Loki not only likely, but genuinely winnable. So let's get into how this surprising final battle actually makes for the most thematically and narratively satisfying conclusion for Elbaf and all its characters. But before we get into it, make sure to subscribe. But first, if you want to use a high-quality VPN for less than $3 a month, Surfshark is offering that deal to my viewers right now. Surfshark VPN is the sponsor of this video, and in case you don't know what VPNs are, most people are using VPNs when they are online nowadays, as it's a necessity to make sure that your data does not get stolen. And Surfshark in particular can even warn you about scam emails. But the best part is that Surfshark VPN allows you to change your location online to anywhere you want on the globe. Let me tell you, that gives you so much more access to so many movies, TV shows, and live events that are all streaming for free just in other countries. For example, there are anime that are free on Netflix streaming, but only in Japan. But with Surfshark, you can just change your location online to Japan and get free access with the click of a button. And if VPNs sound too good to be true, that's because most of them are pretty expensive. Most cost about $15 a month, but Surfshark is a world-class, award-winning VPN with over 4,500 servers in 140 locations that is offering my viewers a deal for less than $3 a month, and the best part is you can keep that price for up to 2 years. And on top of that, if you follow my link, you can get an extra 4 months free of Surfshark VPN. All you have to do is go to surfshark.com/Morge or use code Morge at checkout to get your Surfshark deal today for less than $3 a month and 4 extra months free. Just follow the link, or you can scan the QR code below. So that aside, to begin with, Elbaf currently has a villain problem. We were only given a small set of villains in the story besides Imu, really just 2 Gods Knights and then a bunch of manufactured temporary monsters, the MMAs and the Domi Reversi giants. And it's quickly looking like both of those groups are being dealt with fast, soon leaving us with just 2 Gods Knights who don't seem like they're going to be that much of a problem in the grand scheme of things. Very soon we will be left with just Imu. And while Imu is the strongest being on the planet, the problem is that narratively he simply cannot be defeated here. He is clearly an endgame boss, saved for the final war. And on top of that, it seems like Imu himself won't be able to fight at full power like he did at God Valley, because unlike at God Valley, Imu actually has not fully manifested at Elbaf. See, at God Valley, Imu didn't just possess Saturn. Imu used Saturn as a medium to transport his physical body to God Valley. Imu himself was literally at God Valley. This was his true physical manifestation, which is why Imu had to take a boat to sail back to Marishua. Now, this is clearly not the same case in Elbaf. This time, Imu's physical form is not actually in Elbaf. His true form is still sitting at Marishua, and it seems like Imu can only use Gunko as a long-distance meat puppet. My guess is that this is due to a difference in level of contracts. Saturn is a Gorosei, whereas Gunko is a mere God's Knight, so since Saturn has a level 3 contract, Imu can likely use Saturn's body to physically manifest his true form, whereas Gunko only has a level 2 contract, and therefore Imu can likely only use Gunko's body for long-distance remote control. This is a huge difference maker, since it's Imu's true body that is the real challenge. We already saw that Rox had no problem cutting up Imu's avatar, Saturn, but even 6 legends together could not damage Imu's true form. So since it seems like Imu's true form will not be arriving at Elbaf, that means that the Gunko avatar that we have here likely cannot be final boss material. So the issues at Elbaf are pretty clear. There are soon going to be no villains left besides Imu's Gunko avatar. Imu cannot be outright defeated in an arc before the final war, and Emu can't even properly serve as a satisfying villain in Elbaf, as his powers here should be limited. He himself is not even able to fight on the island. Now, keeping all of this in mind, there is another hanging issue. There has been a lot of build up to the idea of Luffy fighting Loki from the start of the arc, especially now that it's been established that their predecessors had legendary duels. And at this point, it seems like Loki is meant to be Luffy's quote-unquote Whitebeard in a sense, meaning at some point the two should clash, as all narrative equals in One Piece do at some point in the story. The simple problem is that Luffy and Loki genuinely get along, and they're both obviously on the same side. As such, there would be no point in them fighting against one another in the final war, when they will have more important enemies to be up against. If there were ever a time for Luffy and Loki to go against one another, wouldn't it be now, in Elbaf, the arc that began with teasing this clash of the Titans, the arc right before the final war where Luffy and Loki will have to be on the same side, and the one arc where there is a clear plot device in Domi Reversi that could turn Luffy and Loki against one another. When you consider all those points in totality, that Elbaf currently has a big gaping hole in the antagonist department, that it does seem natural that Luffy and Loki should fight at some point before the final war, and finally that this arc is uniquely set up with a clear plot device to turn friends into enemies, then couldn't the simple answer that ties everything together be that Emu is going to Domi Reversi Loki to make him the final boss of Elbaf? I think this is an especially powerful possibility because of what it does in terms of character writing. Loki's two idols are Rox and his father Harold. Both of them met a tragic end, being turned into puppets by Emu. History repeating, with Loki being turned into a puppet as well, but this time with the cycle being broken, with Loki being saved by Luffy the sun god freeing him, would bring things narratively full circle, and it would forever cement the bond between Loki the Nidhogg and Luffy the sun god. Because right now, I think there is still one step more to go in Luffy and Loki's relationship. They get along on a surface level, but Loki is still somewhat standoffish with Luffy, as seen by the fact that Loki still refuses to tell Luffy about Shanks. As such, I think there is one more step to Loki truly trusting Luffy and bonding them together as friends. I also think that's precisely why Oda conveniently set things up such that defeating a Domi Reversi'd enemy is the one way to free them. This is the perfect narrative setup to give us a great battle between Luffy and Loki, while simultaneously actually building a lasting bond between them. On top of all this, the setup of Emu turning Loki into a puppet to fight Luffy and the Straw Hats also seems to be a callback to Thriller Bark, the arc that so far most clearly foreshadows Elbaf. So everyone's seen the parallels to Thriller Bark. In Elbaf, we have a shadowy villain Emu similar to Moria, and most of the arc has been fighting against armies of puppets. Just like Thriller Bark had zombies, here it's MMAs and Domi Reversi giants. The main villain himself in both Elbaf and Thriller Bark is very hands-off and wants the puppets to do the fighting. And just like in Thriller Bark, in Elbaf there are only a few actual henchmen to deal with who don't seem like they're that strong in the grand scheme of things. I mean, even the phrasing around the two arcs are similar. Here in Elbaf, we are dealing with a nightmare, just like Thriller Bark was an arc about fighting nightmares. And so, just as Thriller Bark's main event was the shadowy villain commandeering a mighty ancient giant to fight against the Straw Hats, so too do we possibly see him set up in Elbaf to have the same conflict but on a far grander scale, with Emu taking a world-ending ancient giant and turning him into his puppet to fight the Straw Hats. Essentially a fittingly upgraded big bad monster for the now Yonko level crew to go up against. Loki could very well always have been planned to be the New World version of Oars, or maybe it's more accurate to say that Oars was concocted to be the pre-timeskip version of Loki. But now the simple problem we have in the New World is, this time around, could Oars 2.0 be too strong? Can the Straw Hats even survive against Loki? Let alone a Domi Reversi'd Loki who would be even more powerful than normal and who can heal from all injuries? Well, I think Oda has set things up for this seemingly insurmountable challenge to actually secretly be very doable when you connect all the pieces that he has put into place. So the simple issue with Loki is that on paper, he is just too strong. Loki is at least equal to powered up Harold. And even before Harold's upgrade, Harold was on par with Pirate King level characters like Rox. Gaban made it very clear for us that the Holy Knight version of Harold was genuinely strong enough to destroy the entire world, meaning even the wing of the Pirate King was confident that no Yonko or Yonko crews would have been able to stop Holy Knight Harold. But the thing is, Loki is on that level. He is at least as strong as Holy Knight Harold, making making him a world-ending threat himself, as we've been told over and over. But on top of this, if Loki were to be Domi Reversi'd, then his strength would be amplified even further beyond that. We already saw that Domi Reversi'd rocks reached unprecedented levels of power, taking Roger and Garp going all out together to bring him down. And since Loki is stronger than rocks, a Domi Reversi'd Loki would be a true apocalyptic nightmare, the likes of which we've never seen before. And frankly, just looking at Loki's powers at face value, what the hell would the Straw Hats even do to survive this? I mean, it was implied half of Luffy's crew could have died to a single Boro Breath if they hadn't been saved at the last second, and Boro Breath is like a cute little firecracker compared to what Loki can do. Loki's attacks are genuinely on the same scale as the Raigo, or straight up ancient weapons. So considering Loki can launch a nuke every time he opens his mouth, the Straw Hats fighting him just doesn't seem feasible. However, before we get into a lot of the surprise factors that actually make this battle a lot more doable than readers may realize, let me first preface this by saying that the impossibility of the challenge is part of the point. The Straw Hats as a whole are currently way too weak right now for the final war. Zoro is one arc away, give or take, from somehow surpassing Mihawk and becoming the world's strongest swordsman. And yet right now, Zoro doesn't even know how to consciously control his Conqueror's Haki, and his last fight was going huff-huff with Lucci. Sanji doesn't even have Conqueror's Haki yet, and he's supposed to be one of Luffy's wings that will help bring the dawn. And let's not even get into the rest of the crew. They may have been good enough for the Beast Pirates' second stringers, but it looks like they can't even handle a single God's Knight. The Straw Hats frankly need a nearly impossible challenge right now, this arc, to force them to get to the level that they need to be. So yes, obviously the Straw Hats as they are right now cannot defeat Domi Reversi'd Loki, but that is the entire point, that they will have to grow to rise to the occasion, because we've been needing a catalyst for their growth for some time. So with that in mind, let me break down why the fight is actually a lot more fair than readers may realize, as Oda has actually secretly been stacking the deck for the Straw Hats side this entire time. So to begin with, what needs to be remembered is that Loki is not going to be able to use his trump card, Lightning, in this battle. That's right, the Straw Hats have a hard counter to completely take Loki's lightning out of the equation: Luffy. Luffy has always been the hard counter to lightning. In fact, Luffy completely countering lightning has already been a major plot point that completely solved the Skypiea arc's seemingly unwinnable matchup against Enno. So it would not be surprising in the slightest to see that play out against Loki yet again, especially because now that Luffy has Gear 5, it's not just that Luffy is invulnerable against lightning, Luffy can actually block all lightning attacks in general, even those aimed at his comrades. I don't think it's a coincidence that Oda has now, in multiple arcs, repeatedly shown us that Gear 5 Luffy can catch lightning and manipulate it as he pleases. I think Oda is deliberately playing this up over and over again for us so that it's not a surprise for us when it's time to fight Loki, and we see that Loki's greatest weapon will be completely neutralized. As if Loki attempts to use Thunderheim against the Straw Hats, Luffy will make sure it ends up backfiring on him instead. Once Loki realizes that any use of lightning will be turned back against him, Loki's lightning will essentially be taken out of the equation for this entire fight. Now, Loki would still be a terrifyingly strong opponent, but he would no longer be able to simply wipe out the entire Straw Hat crew in one attack. Loki will actually have to roll up his sleeves and box with them, giving us a scenario much more like the Oars fight. Now, while that is a huge nerf in itself, lightning is not the only one of Loki's abilities that is set to be turned against him. See, Ragnar will most definitely be switching to the protagonist's side. Ragnar is not just Loki's weapon. Ragnar is his own character with his own choices. Ragnar chose Loki as his partner back when Loki was his own man. But if Loki suddenly turned completely evil and lost control of his mind and started fighting as a puppet of Emu, I cannot imagine Ragnar would just go along with his brainwashed master to kill all the giants and the sun god. Ragnar would most definitely fight alongside the Straw Hats to free his master. And that right there makes for yet another huge swing factor. Loki is literally losing his main weapon, his hammer, and on top of that, Loki would be losing his ice powers. With these handicaps, at this point, Loki would essentially no longer be a lightning and ice dragon, but more like a giant flying Tyrannosaurus Rex with regeneration, which is still scary, but a lot more doable. And now between Luffy and Ragnar, Loki will be up against arguably 2 Yonko level characters. But would that be enough? I mean, Roger and Garp together barely took down Domi Reversi'd rocks, and again, Domi Reversi'd Loki should be even stronger. And so this is where it's time for the Straw Hat crew to start pulling their weight. This is the ultimate opportunity for the crew. So this is a storyline about the Straw Hats getting stronger. We've already had clear setups dropped in the arc, that Zoro has to learn to master his control over Conqueror's Haki, and Sanji needs to awaken his Conqueror's Haki in general. Frankie has already gotten an upgrade, we know that Usopp has long been built up to take a leap forward in Elbaf. The entire crew should be taking a major step up here, and I believe that with the upgrades the Straw Hats are set to get by the end of this arc, they will be able to help turn the tide as a unit against even a Domi Reversi'd Loki. Consider this, if Zoro truly masters his Conqueror's Haki, then he should finally be able to use Ashura on command. And considering a severely weakened Zoro with most of his bones broken, and with no control of his Conqueror's Haki, was able to permanently scar Kaido just from a single Ashura attack, well, Zoro at full health, with actual mastery over his Conqueror's Haki, using Ashura, should be able to damage even Loki. Remember, Zoro is very soon going to have to defeat Mihawk and become the world's strongest swordsman, but Zoro is still only around first mate level himself. So for Zoro to bridge that gap to Mihawk by the final war, we should see Zoro reaching at least quote-unquote admiral level in Elbaf. On top of this, considering Sanji seems to be set for some Conqueror's Haki upgrades as well, it's very possible that Sanji could be verging on quote-unquote admiral level as well by the end of Elbaf. So when judging the Straw Hats against Loki, don't think about how strong Zoro and Sanji are right now, think about how strong they should become over the course of this arc. With Zoro and Sanji's upcoming upgrades in mind, the matchup we're looking at now is Domi Reversi'd Loki, who is not allowed to use lightning, ice, or his hammer, up against several characters who are roughly Yonko or Admiral level. Then add in a whole slew of other supporting characters who are also getting upgrades as we speak. Nami already has Yonko level firepower in Zeus. Frankie just got a major upgrade in firepower that we have yet to see the full capabilities of. We can assume that the rest of the crew will be upgrading their abilities here as well. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the long-standing theory that Usopp will be wielding Ragnar does end up coming true, because finally we have a potential setup for it. If Loki is Domi Reversi, then finally we have a situation where at least temporarily, Ragnar will be without a master, and may therefore temporarily choose someone else. And depending on what Oda has in mind for Usopp's character growth, we might legitimately end up getting Usopp wielding the legendary hammer for this arc only. I have no idea how the size disparity would work out, but maybe we could ask Biblo to help out, who knows. But Usopp actually wielding Ragnar for a bit is a really fun and actually feasible possibility to consider now. Bottom line, at this point, things are starting to look rough for Loki, but let's not forget the giants of Elbaf, and I think there's actually one major X factor among the giants in particular that everyone has been forgetting about that could be a huge swing that would make victory against Loki nearly guaranteed. But before we get into it, this month you can get a brand new collection of posters, the Legends Collection. 12 dynamically illustrated One Piece legends with 12 hidden iconic moments. Get Fiery Ace with his hidden Battle of Destiny. Get the Defiant Roger with his hidden legendary laugh. Or get the Grinning Loki with a hidden tragedy. And many more. And this month you can buy 2 posters and get any 3 free with the deal auto-applied at checkout. And that's not just from this collection. You can buy 2 get 3 from any posters you like spanning all of our collections, including past boss posters, island posters, and ships posters. The buy 2 get 3 free deal is only running for this month, and Loki's poster will be gone from our store forever after this month, so make sure you get your deal today by hitting the link in the description below. So to begin with, Dory and Brogy are obviously very strong warriors, and we've seen them be effective against multiple Gorosei already. So right there, we have 2 more heavy hitters to add to the mix, but it's not going to be them alone. A theme throughout the arc has been the idea of Elbaf as a whole reclaiming its past strength. This is supposed to be the mightiest nation after all. We will likely see all of Elbaf rising up to join the Straw Hats in their fight against Loki. Now, as we saw against Holy Knight Herald, even an army of giant warriors may only barely slow down Domi Domi Reversi'd Loki, but it's still another factor to help the alliance, especially with Dori and Brogy at the helm. But the real crazy ace up his sleeve that Oda can pull out, the swing factor if Oda wants to go there, is the man, the myth, the legend, motherfucking Jarl. That's right, so far Jarl has just been this feeble old man. In human years, he would be 130 years old at this point, far, far past his prime. But we were told that in Jarl's prime, he was the mightiest warrior of Elbaf, and therefore by extension, the mightiest warrior on the seas. Prime Jarl was very likely comparable to Herald, and one of the coolest setups that we have in Elbaf is that Oda has planted the one character that can turn back the clock and return Jarl to his prime, right there on the island. Bonnie. Oda's been suspiciously keeping Bonnie out of the frame this entire time, when she could really change the game. And we've seen Oda do this sort of thing just recently in the Wano arc with Hyogoro. I think Oda genuinely likes the idea of having feeble old warriors return back to their prime temporarily, so I would not be surprised if we do end up seeing that again here with Jarl. This feels like such an easy game-breaking hack that Oda could pull out for the protagonists at any point. If the going gets rough, Oda can just have Bonnie de-age Jarl, and just like that, the protagonists have another fighter who is at least Yonko level hitting the field. So at this point, without lightning, ice, or his hammer, I think even Domi Reversi'd Loki realistically can be defeated by a combination of Luffy, Ragnar, Prime Jarl, Dori, Brogy, a significantly powered up Straw Hat crew, and an entire nation of giants. Maybe at this point you even think this is overkill and the heroes won't need this many characters on their side. And yeah, honestly, we may not need to get a de-aged Jarl, but the point is that a giant team battle against an amped Loki is actually realistic for the finale of Elbaf, essentially the Oars Battle 2.0. And with this specific squad and the unique strengths that we have set up here, a victory against even a world-ending threat could genuinely be possible. So let me know in the comments below if you believe we will get a battle against Domi Reversi'd Loki here, and if you enjoyed this video then definitely like and subscribe. And if you want to hear how Loki, after being freed from Domi Reversi, may actually be the one to drive Emu out of Elbaf, then you can listen to my weekly podcast that just dropped by becoming a member or by supporting me on Patreon, link in the description below. And make sure to get your Surfshark deal for less than $3 a month and 4 extra months free by going to surfshark.com/Morge or using code Morge at checkout, link in the description below, or scan the QR code.